Hey guys, Moneyman300, and I've got a little video series, multi-part, probably 5 or 6 parts that I'm going to put out, and this is going to be the first one. What I did is a dual comm with a friend of mine, Rock King 3, aka Jason, and had this idea to kind of go back and forth and talk about our impressions of the game and go through and talk about maps and weapons and just kind of go through each aspect of the game and talk about it as we went. And we went through it and did that, and we went down, we talked about every map and most of the weapons. We talked about squad mode and extinction, whatever the other game type is, and it ended up being like 2 hours, literally. So I got this long 2 hour recording, but anyway, I'm gonna break it down into some parts. Maybe not put it all up, but put some of the more relevant and the more fun ones up. And this one here is the first one. It's the overview. So there'll be some more to follow, but yeah, that's it, and we'll get right into it. Hey, Moneyman300 here, and I'm gonna do a first impressions video and do a little review. It's a dual comm, do something a little different. Dual comm with Rock King 3 today.
Hey guys, this is Rocking 3, and Matt pretty much took all the intro away, so we'll just jump straight into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm going to let you start, Money Man, on this. So overall game, and what we're talking about here is just kind of how it feels, what we feel about it, and what we're talking about the multiplayer portion of Call of Duty Ghosts. Go ahead and kick it off, Money.
Yeah, multiplayer. I haven't played single player yet. I'm gonna wait until it comes out on the Xbox One, get that full graphical experience. But yeah, overall gameplay feel, I was, and I still am, I'm very impressed with how the game feels. I thought it was outstanding. It had a little bit more of an old school Call of Duty feel to it.
What do you mean by old school? One thing you got to realize is I didn't start playing Call of Duty until after Modern Warfare, and that's kind of what I've heard. Comparison to this is kind of closer to what the original Modern Warfare was.
Yeah, I think so. I would probably compare it more to Modern Warfare 2, especially with the increased time to kill on the weapons. I've heard some people complaining, some people like it, but I think people really got used to the time to kill in Black Ops, and Modern Warfare 3 was a little quicker, and then back a little bit on Black Ops 2. But in Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2, they were always very fast to kill, or very fast time to kill, and same thing with the previous Call of Duties, the original Call of Duty and Call of Duty 2 as well. So it feels more like an older one, which I really like.
Yeah, and I'm more used to the other versions of it with the Black Ops and the Black Ops 2, and that was not a fast time to kill at all. So this for me has been a bigger adjustment just because that TTK is so much different than it was before. And if you go through our leaderboards, you'll see that Moneyman's always a more accurate shooter than I am. My KD is generally about the same or maybe a little bit higher, but he's always more accurate. So I kind of see with this TTK going so fast that Money's going to make up a lot of ground or even probably pass me on a KD, depending on the game types. Obviously, this game's a little bit different when it comes to game types. But per game, he's probably right with me, if not a little bit ahead of me with the KD because of that time to kill.
Yeah,
Because I'm, like I said, I come from the Black Ops where you have to pepper somebody for a half a clip to kill them. Now it's 3 or 4 bullets. It's a lot different.
Yeah, it is a lot different. And the other thing for me is, and not that KD is important, but I am substantially higher the first time around than I normally am or have been in the last couple. I really struggled in my first Prestige in Modern Warfare 3, and same thing with Black Ops 2. And I mean, I was under 1 the whole time, and now I'm closer to 1.5. In this, it just fits my play better. Also, connections. The connections for me are just way better than what we've seen in the last couple. I mean, it's night and day for me. I felt like lag comp was such a huge deal in the last couple of Call of Duties, and I don't feel it in this one. Occasionally, you'll get a game that the connections aren't quite as good, but for me, it's just way more consistent. I don't know if you got that same feel or not.
Well, for me, okay, my connections on Black Ops 2, my KD was pretty decent. I was like 1.75 in Black Ops 2, so it was pretty decent. Now, the difference between Black Ops 2 is I had to play solo. I could not play with any friends. I can only play solo, and my KD would be high. I would still go for objectives and still play the game like I would any other time. There's only one way for me to play it, and that's to get objectives and to win. But in this game, I can actually play with money. I can play with my other friends, and our connections seem to be pretty consistent across the board. Every once in a while, you get that game where it's not great, and you'll be about 500, maybe a little bit under. I've even had a couple where I've gone very negative, but I don't see that as much. I can actually play with Money Man. I can play with my friends, whereas before, if I played with my friends, my connection was always worse. You would see my KD over a course of 10 games go down. I'd play solo, it'd go back up, and it was all based on connection. So that's one big improvement I see in this. And I don't know if that goes back to the game recordings during the game. I know we've talked about that a little bit, but the ability to record games in the game itself has gone away. And hopefully that's helped with some of the lag and some of the competition because it's not recording while you're playing it as well.
Yeah, I actually think that has a lot to do with it. And I don't know if it's so much that it's recording while it's doing it, but in order to get a game recording, the way that they pull the game recording means they have to have all the game data synchronized across all the consoles, as much as possible. Even more so than playing the game to record it. So, my theory had always been the big reason for the amount of lag comp that was there was for theater mode, so that they could keep that game as permanently in sync as they could. And so they added that, or bumped up. I should say bumped up. I think lag compensation is something that's always been there to some degree, but they had to bump that up to really keep that game in sync for theater mode. At least that's my theory. There's a lot of people that have floated that around as well, and it makes sense. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers the connections. I mean, I think we both agree they're improved, and this is on the Xbox 360. No dedicated servers yet, so I think it's only going to get better from that perspective.
That's true. That is a major part you just said there. This is the 360 version. We're obviously not on the Xbox One just yet, so hopefully we'll see even more improvements going to that console as well. I hope we don't see it get worse. I really hope it only gets better from here.
It'll be interesting. I would expect some bumps in the road, though. Being the first time that they've introduced that, I would expect some problems and some time for that to really get ironed out. Another thing that's back is sounds. Man, we can hear footsteps again. Black Ops 2 completely eliminated footsteps from the game. It seemed like, you couldn't hear anybody coming anywhere. It's like everybody had dead silence on, but you can really hear. Not only can you hear the footsteps, but you get a really good indication if you got a decent headset of exactly where they're coming from. The sounds have been great.
Coming from.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'll even add on that a little bit more. At the end of Black Ops 2, I was to the point where I didn't even wear my headset. It just did not matter. I literally had it hanging on the side of and I would just use the one single headphone just to record my voice for the game. I wasn't even listening to it. And now, what an advantage. Even if you're playing bots or multiplayer, you can tell what direction they're at. You can tell if they're below you or above you. You know exactly what's going on. And if you use the perks accordingly as well to dead silence yourself and to amplify the others, it's even more so. Those perks are very, very valuable in this game where they weren't in the last one.
Yeah, I agree. They were worthless in the last one. There's no reason to use them. We'll cover some perks and stuff later. Another thing that I noticed a lot was the reduced auto aim. That pull of auto aim was just huge, and it seemed to get bigger with every game. And now for me, it looks like there's significantly less auto aim, and where that really shows up is with snipers. And things like quick scoping. There's debate, is quick scoping still there, is it not there? It's absolutely still there, and it's still possible to quick scope, but with the reduced auto aim, you're not taking advantage of the system so much when you do a quick scope. You actually have to be on target and hit a guy. So it's now feels like it's in much better balance, and it actually takes a fair amount of skill now to pull it off.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed this or not either, too, when you're looking through an object that there's a person behind it. You remember how it used to really pull you, like if somebody came around a corner? I don't, at least I haven't at this point. Maybe my map knowledge isn't good enough or knowing where people are coming from, but I don't get that huge pull from left to right because the guy came around the corner because I was looking through the object, let's say. I don't see that as much.
Yeah, I don't get it near as much. Or when there's two guys, they used to just kill me if there's two people there. It consistently would pull me over to the wrong one that I'm trying to aim at. I haven't noticed that as much. It's still there a little. You still notice a little pull, but nothing like it used to be, and I think that's a good thing. It hasn't all been right. So it's been pretty positive, right? We've liked it. We've had a good time playing, but there are some issues with the game too. It's not perfect. One of the major issues is spawns, in my opinion. the spawns are kind of a disaster in this game, and it's globally across game types, with the exception of search and destroy, which doesn't have spawns, obviously. And dominate, it really makes domination incredibly difficult. You spawn out all over across the map with the other team. I mean, it's just, one guy gets into your side of the map, if you got A or if you got C or B, whatever it is, and all of a sudden it completely flips you to the other side, and that's making it really difficult in some of these game types.
Yeah, and you still see every once in a while that Modern Warfare 3 spawn where someone spawns in front of you, or someone's just coming around the corner as you spawn, and you either get killed or kill somebody because, like, hello. And some of that's kind of in some of the new game types, like Blitz and stuff like that. Sometimes you kill somebody along the way, and next thing you know, you're running into them again because they spawned near to the point where you're going. I'm getting a little bit better myself at the spawns. Like, I know if I'm spawning left of the Blitz point or left of the domination point, that there's probably traffic on the other side of the map coming towards me. But again, you said they are a little bit all over the place, and domination is one of those game types that you have people all over the map. So how many spawn points are there? I haven't figured that out yet, but it's kind of random. You're sometimes really far away from where you need to be. I find that a lot. Sometimes you're just really out of place, and you have to do a lot of running to get back into the game. And some of that's kind of leaning to the maps as well, which we'll talk a little bit later. But I think overall the spawns are still something they could work on. And I think it's better than Modern Warfare 3, but I think it's still something they could work on to improve it going forward. Hopefully with the next patch or something, or maybe even the Xbox One version, but we will see.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to make sure we don't forget too is talk about the sensitivity level that we're playing, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with KD and accuracy and stuff like that, or with the accuracy part of it. I'm playing on a sensitivity level 7 right now. I started at a 3, went to a 4. Went up to like a 9, and then kind of gone back down. I do typically play more of an SMG type style, although I've been playing a lot of ARs as well. So I'm always quickly running and trying to get around corners and get up the sights quickly. But my sensitivity level is probably a little bit lower than what it was from Black Ops, and probably a little bit higher than what it was from Modern Warfare 3. Where are you playing about?
Yeah, I'm lower, and I'm on a 3 right now on medium, and I think that was the default setting. Looking at it now, it looks like I'm playing at 3, and I've tried a little higher, I've tried a little lower. This feels about right, and a lot of that has to do with this is really, and we'll get into that in the weapons a little bit, but this is really an AR-dominated game. ARs are the kind of the de facto go-to weapon in this, and the other classes are more for specialized things. So and for me, ARs work better with a lower sensitivity, and with the lower TTK, I want to be able to get those shots on right as I go up the sights. So and the sway and my thumb freaking out doesn't get me off target so quickly. So it's 3. It's a medium. I was playing anywhere from 5 to 7 on Black Ops 2, which was higher, but the pace of that game I think required it, and being SMG dominated required a higher sensitivity. So I'm sure it's something I'm going to continue to play with.
And the first shot was always important in Black Ops 2, but the first shot in this game is even more important, I think, than what it ever has been in the past that I've played anyway.
Yeah, it really is.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up from a not so good perspective is the leaderboards. The leaderboards, in my opinion, even between the mobile app and the on-screen scoreboards, leaderboards, has been pretty lacking. I mean, you really get some decent overall, like I'm looking at the score, I'm looking at the wins. I do like that information. I have my KD and my streaks and stuff like that, and my accuracy. Now the problem is I can't break it down to additional guns. I can't look at the accuracy per gun. I can't look at the KD per gun. Now, I was doing some kind of custom loadout, and it seemed like when you select a gun, and I don't remember if it was Create a Soldier on the app or if it was Create a Soldier within the game itself, but when you actually selected a gun, it told you what your current stat was. But now all of a sudden I can't find it again, so I'm not sure if I was just dreaming that or what. But I think overall, being able to kind of splice down your leaderboard, it hasn't been very strong.
Yeah, I think you're being nice. I think the stats are garbage. And I have no idea why they went backwards, right? So in the last couple, Elite wasn't great, but at least I could go in there and get my per gun stats, which I kind of enjoyed looking at. Hey, what guns am I doing better with? How much have I used certain guns? How many kills do I have with each one? It's non-existent. It doesn't make any sense. And that app that came out for this, what is just the Call of Duty app or Call of Duty Ghost app is garbage. I went through. There's nothing you can do in there. Sure, you can do loadouts and send them to the game. They make it a companion app. That I mean, I can't see myself in there sending loadouts to the game while I'm playing the game. So I don't see any companion to it. Maybe it's going to be good as for clan wars and different things like that. But right now, I don't understand it. I mean, that's certainly something that's a big negative for me. I like to look at the stats. It's fun to kind of look at it and compare gun to gun, and even looking at your kill streak stats and all of those things. It's part of, if you like to analyze the game, if you're an analytical person like I am, that's a big part of it. So that's a big negative to me, and hopefully the app, maybe it'll evolve into that, but I don't know. I mean, we've had that since Black Ops, the original Black Ops had that,
Yeah.
and we've had it ever since. So now all of a sudden that's missing. So yeah. That's a big one for me too. Another one that you get a lot of, is the larger maps, and we'll talk more specifically, when we get down into the maps. But maps in general in this game are bigger. I don't necessarily feel that that's a bad thing. Now there's a couple maps that are ridiculous and just aren't any good. But I haven't played a Call of Duty yet that didn't have a couple maps that were bad. I don't mind the overall larger feel to the maps, and I don't think they're as big. I think when you compare it to a game like Black Ops 2 and Modern Warfare 3, yeah, they're bigger than that. But if you go back a little further, the original Black Ops, even Modern Warfare 2 and Call of Duty 4, and then even back to Call of Duty, these maps are not any larger than the maps that were in those games. Again, when I talked about in the beginning, that kind of going back to their roots a little bit, slightly larger maps. And I say slightly because the more you play them, the more you realize they maybe aren't quite as big as you thought they were at first. There's a few, and we'll touch on them when we get there, that are bigger, but definitely bigger than Black Ops 2. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, well, I think overall the maps always play bigger to begin with, because you look at the map as a whole. There's a lot of the parts of the map that you don't even use in a lot of these game types. There's even some game types that use even less than that, depending on, like Blitz is an example, where one of the maps is pretty large, is the outdoor one, the Stonehaven one, and the points are so close together. So like I've had one of those Maniacs, and I can get from spawn back to the point and get there before the last time I scored. That 10-second timer is up. So again, like what he's saying, even though the maps seem like they're generally bigger right now, they're probably not bigger in a useful way. It's probably just a bigger map overall from the footprint, not necessarily for the game type that you're playing. So a lot of the games, I think, other than a couple of the maps, which we'll talk about later, definitely play in that medium size and with a couple of small ones, which I like. I like small maps, but I don't like to play them every single game. I like to play more medium maps. I like to play more AR engaged maps. Sometimes we play like Dome is a good example for Modern Warfare 3. You play it once, you play it again, you play it again. Okay, now it's just chaos. Now, with the medium-sized map, I feel like you could be a little more strategic about it. So I like the size of the maps, except for a couple of them that are very, very large.
Yeah, I agree, and to give people something to think about. If you go back and you look at the Call of Duty 4 maps, universally recognized as probably the best Call of Duty in all of the installments, right? And you look at a map like Overgrown, which is almost universally one of the best maps made for Call of Duty. Overgrown's a big map. I don't know if you remember that map, but Overgrown is big. But it was a great map because of the way it played and the way the points laid out and how it flowed. Some of that had to do with the spawns, and I think if they get these spawns tweaked up a little bit, I think it's going to really help the traffic flow in the maps. And it's not going to make them seem so random and so big. And I think that's another complaint that some of the people have had, is just the way traffic flows through the maps right now. And some of that it's new. People aren't taking established patterns through the maps right now in these game maps, and they'll evolve into that, and you'll have specific paths that people take and places that they go, and everybody will learn those places, and places where people camp and places where people run. So, but there were always big maps, even maps like Crash, Downpour, Overgrown. All those were bigger, or about the size of, say, a Warhawk in this one, or a Prison Break or something like that are relatively large, what we consider large now, but in reality those are medium-sized maps. So I think it's just a game that has a lot of medium-sized maps, a couple of small maps, and a couple of really large maps. I would like to see them add, a nice mix, maybe a couple more, smaller size maps in there in a DLC, and they probably will. as well as a couple more mediums. But yeah, overall, I don't view that as a negative. I know there are a lot of people that do, but I think it's kind of refreshing in that.
From my point of view, the maps are good. Sometimes the map rotations have been a little limited. I know I jokingly tell you that we play Prison Break all the time, and I'm pretty sure that we do that in Free Fall. I would like to see a better mix as far as either the voting gets a little bit better mix to it, so that way we actually play some different maps. But there's just some maps I haven't played a lot of, and there's a lot of maps, like Prison Break is one of them that I play a lot. So from a map selection, I would like to see it maybe randomized a little bit more, or it seems like only certain game types you get certain maps, and maybe that's what they're limiting at this point. I like the wider variety of maps, because when we played Nuketown back in Black Ops and Black Ops 2, when you played Nuketown once, you played it twice because so many people liked it. To be honest, I didn't like it as much as other people did, so I quit out a lot because that map would come up, and I knew I had to play it twice. So now I see Prison Break all the time. It's like, okay, 2 or 3 times in a row is enough. I need to back out and I need to go play something else. I'd just like to see a more random, better, evenly spread out map.
Yeah, it does seem
rotation
to be heavily weighted, and maybe it's because we play a lot of objective game types, and maybe those are the maps that pop up in there. We're not really team deathmatch players.
Okay.
So
Was there any other major topics you want to hit with the overall game?
I don't think so. Let's dive into game types. Get into
Okay.
there. Talk a little bit about the game types that are in here.